It's the weekend and I'm trying to have fun. I got no fucking plans, I'm just trying to get drunk. It's the weekend, trying to have some fun. And I want to get too fucked up. 'Cause it's the weekend. Yeah, it's the weekend. Yeah, it's the weekend. Yeah, the weekend.
Very intense.
Yeah, it's the weekend now, and I'm having fun.
Alrighty. Yes, it is the weekend for... Actually, technically it is the weekend, but Nate and I both have to work this weekend, so it's not as
it's the
exciting.
weekend for the high school, for the kids that are in school.
Yeah.
Oh, shit.
Yeah, first week back, I think, for most of them after Labor Day, so makes sense.
Yeah.
But anyways, welcome back to another episode of the Those Movie Dudes podcast. Not a traditional Those Movie Dudes podcast episode. As you can see, there's only two of us dudes here. We are down one dude. John is on a top secret assignment. In reality, he just forgot to tell us that he was traveling this weekend. And when we were trying to lock down days to record, we realized that he couldn't make it. So we wanted to still give you guys something to listen to, something to watch, talk a little bit about some movies here. So I am joined here by Nate. He is our other dude here, the co-host of the Those Movie Dudes podcast. How you doing there?
Oh, I'm just doing dandy.
Okay. Never do that again, please. Okay. No, it's okay. I appreciated that you tried something new.
It's a great way to stay in shape.
Of course.
Just hanging out, watching some movies. It's a great way to stay in shape.
Yeah. Everything's a great way to stay in shape. Everything, literally. So yeah, this is not going to be a traditional episode of Those Movie Dudes podcast where we typically do some like first time watches, some new releases, some mainstream boy trivia. That is going to be on the back burner. Maybe we'll have an episode to come of that. I know John, he picked My Cousin Vinny for us to talk about. Hasn't been a whole lot of new releases to really cover anyways this past week, or couple weeks. So instead, Nate and I decided, because I don't know about where you guys listening, I don't know where you guys live in the world, but where we live, the leaves are changing.
The leaves are changing. The nights are getting longer. It's
shorter.
No, the nights get longer.
Days are getting shorter.
Days are getting shorter. Yes. Yeah.
I misheard you. Okay. Yes.
No, that's okay.
As usual, Nate, John, and I, we always do like a little Spooktober spectacular all month long in the month of October, and it's a little early this time, but because the leaves are changing, the fall weather is upon us. It's coming up soon. Summer is hopefully over very soon. I am so ready for summer to be done. We are going to talk about some horror movies today. We're going to be talking about some horror movies that we think that you guys should go and check out for yourselves. Put this on your watch list. Hopefully you guys have a Letterboxd account and you can add it to your watch list. If not, just make a note, because Nate and I, we've seen a whole bunch of horror movies. Between the two of us.
Oh my lord.
This is your bread and butter. Yeah.
And I love bread and butter, so that's just like on top of that. Yeah. Ever since I was 5 and my sister showed me the original It miniseries, that sent me down the path of darkness and macabreness. And just lots and lots of blood and killing.
And for me, like the first horror movie, it's not even a horror movie, but the first movie I remember watching and being absolutely petrified by was The Sixth Sense, because I just didn't know what the concepts of ghosts were, and the way that movie depicted it, it terrified me. We actually have a full hour-long episode on The Sixth Sense on our podcast feed. So if you want to hear us talk about that movie, feel free to go ahead and do that. But yeah, so I have 5 movies that I think that you guys should go and check out this upcoming Spooktober season. Nate has done the same. I don't know what he picked. He doesn't know what I picked. We're just going to find out right here on air. So you guys are going to be listening and hearing as we are going to discuss our top 5 favorite horror movies that we think that you guys should go and watch this October. But before we do that, Nate,
yes.
What's one movie that you want to cross off your watch list that you haven't seen that you want to check out this October?
That I haven't seen?
That you have not seen.
Oh, dear God. For Spooktober? Honestly, there's not a lot. Actually, no, I will say there was some. I saw that the Criterion Channel, they always do these really curated like lists of different movie genres that people can watch.
Yep.
And I saw this grouping of movies that was called it was like Kung Fu Vampires, and it was like a Japanese trilogy that were just about these vampires that bounced around, and it was like a Japanese kung fu horror movie, and it's called Mr. Vampire 1, 2, and 3. And I'm like, it's just silly enough, but it's from Japan, so I know it's like done with 100% effort behind it.
Okay.
So yeah, it was just kind of a random one that I saw on Instagram. I was like, there's no way this is a movie. And then I looked it up and I'm like, why don't I own this? Why haven't I seen these? Because it's just, they have like blue faces, obvious fake teeth, and then they bounce around and they fight kung fu.
I mean, that sounds hilarious. I'm not gonna lie. Like, it doesn't sound like a horror movie, but no. I mean, that still sounds pretty entertaining.
So. And it's just, and I know it's from Japan, and I know the way their style and how they do a really good job at combining some of the really goofy stuff with the really, really scary stuff. So yeah. just a couple random ones. I don't know if you'll check those out. You could.
Well, I don't know. So most of the time when you name a movie that you want to see, I've never heard of it, and that's a shock to me because I feel like I am quite a cinephile and have seen and heard of quite a good amount of movies, but you always find like the deep cuts of like no one's heard of. I'm like, Jesus, what is this? And I look it up, and like, it has like 4 reviews on Letterboxd and like very little like anyone's talking about it. But they end up being like pretty entertaining and pretty cool, and that sounds interesting.
It's the stuff that people don't know as well that I'm like interested in, because then it feels like, haha, I've seen this. Have you even heard of this? Haha.
No, I have not. So yeah, you got that. The one movie that I absolutely am going to watch this coming Spooktober is one of kind of the more mainstream horror films that I still haven't seen. And well, maybe it's not even mainstream. I see it a lot on lists. It's The Lost Boys.
Ooh,
I just picked it up on 4K. So I'm holding out. I'm gonna wait till October, and I'm gonna watch that, and for the first time in a 4K. So I'm pretty excited for that. And then the other one that I know is on my list is Nosferatu, the silent film from the 20s.
Oh, I was gonna say, is it that one, or is it the Klaus Kinski one from the 70s?
No, I want to see the OG.
The OG, yeah.
The 20s, yeah.
Mm-hmm.
I mean,
it's good.
Yeah, no, I know you've seen it, and I know like there's been other versions. Like Werner Herzog did a version, and there's like Shadow of the Vampire, which is like the making of Nosferatu, but with a twist.
Willem Dafoe's in it. I think he's the vampire.
Yeah, I think he got nominated for like Best Supporting Actor as well, so that's interesting.
Of course.
Okay, so yeah, I mean, let us know what movies you guys are going to want to check out this October season, what movies are on your watch list, what horror movies you haven't even seen. Fire away in the comment section down below. We'd love to hear it and have a little discussion down there, but we're just going to get into it right now. Start out with no particular order. So just no particular order. It's not like a ranked list. So at number 5, what do you got? What's your recommendation for people to watch for Spooktober, number 5?
So I'm just looking at my list to be very transparent, and I'm just going to go and pick that one. All right, that's the one I'm going to talk about. One of my favorites, very iconic. A lot of people would say this director changed the face of horror twice in his career. Twice. Number 1 was with Nightmare on Elm Street. And number 2 is Scream, directed by Wes Craven. Movie I could put it on anytime. Like if I had cable, like if I lived in a cave and I had cable, I would definitely. Just this movie's just awesome. It's got everything you need, and it's just something about that 90s campiness that's actually mixed with genuine terror coming from the master of Wes Craven. He's already had 20 years under his belt before he even did this. So you know it's in good hands. And it's just one of those kind of iconic slashers that became a little bit more meta and made meta cool. And yeah, I absolutely love this movie, and it's one that everyone, even if you're not a movie person, just watch Scream, just have a bucket of popcorn and sit on your couch and it's late at night and just watch a bunch of teenagers laugh at horror movie tropes and get stabbed by a very clumsy killer that I will mention. Very, very clumsy.
You know what's funny though? I watched the first Scary Movie before I ever watched Scream,
which I can only
so much later. So like having that backwards effect of watching the spoof first and then like the original movie was a very weird thing to do with this one. But apparently I gave it a 4 out of 5. I watched this a long time ago. I think I watched it maybe like the Halloween season back in high school. I think I watched the first 2 and then I think half the third one. I don't think I've ever seen the third one all the way through. And I haven't seen 4.
I like them. They're not the best ones.
Yeah. And I remember really enjoying it. I don't think I like the second one more, but I think I like the college setting of the second one.
Uh-huh.
I thought that was a lot of fun. But yeah, no, this one it's a movie that's like you said, changed the game for horror movies. It became super meta, and especially if you see the latest 2, Scream 5 and 6. Oh my god, they're so meta, and to the point where it's a little like, okay, dial back maybe
on the
a little
nose.
bit.
Like, okay, I get it.
Still very entertaining. 6 movies in, so that's that's nice.
It's just one of those iconic horror movies that it's not super gory, or at least this first one, it's not terribly gory. But it definitely has a mood and it just a creepy feeling, and like they play Halloween on the TV and there's parties, and it's a very like, it's just a lot of fun going on while these teenagers are getting gutted and hung from trees. But it makes you scared to answer the phone. I will say that.
It's still affected you to this day.
I hardly ever talk on the phone to people, and when I do, I break out into a cold sweat.
Yep. Well, oh well.
I'm not even lying.
Okay, so Scream. If you haven't seen Scream, go and watch that this October season. My pick is a kind of another little mainstream movie. It started out as an independent film, but then gained a cult following over the years. And it's one that I've revisited over the years as well. I've seen it maybe like 3 or 4 times at this point, but It Follows. I want to rewatch this season. That's half the reason why I picked it, is because this is a movie that I have been wanting to revisit, because it's been a couple of years since I've seen it. And I remember we all went and saw this in theaters, like with a group of 5 or 6 people, and it was divisive. I remember after the theater, not everyone loved it, and it was fun to kind of decipher that and to kind of.
I fucking hated it.
Did you? Were you one of the ones that hated it?
Oh, okay. I hated it. Yeah, okay. I'm like, what the fuck did I just pay to watch? Like, what happened? But that opinion changed.
So what
changed?
What do you think of the movie today? Then
it's a masterpiece. Like, it's just. There's this thing that I do where I think on movies, because I try not to be too rash on the first watch, and then I think about it a little bit. So I hated it. I remember leaving the theater, we were in the car, and I was just like, that was terrible. I'm never going to watch this again. It has no rewatch value. The music was terrible. It wasn't scary.
I love the music by Disaster Piece. It's fucking awesome.
And then I just gave myself 24 hours and just kind of had an epiphany and was just like, this movie's fantastic. And it was just so creepy, and just the imagery was shocking, and
just the
opening. A great exactly. Yeah, that's where
the opening still sticks in my mind of like, and just like the camera work. I remember like it was a static shot with a camera on the tripod, and all it was doing was just panning around the neighborhood as the girl was like running to her house, and like this invisible force was like there, and the camera was pretending like it was there, but we can't see it. It was just so fun to see that, and then that smash cut from the beach to like what happens to her body. Yeah, it's just like, oh, it's unsettling as hell. And then the direction this movie goes in, and like all the different like twists and turns, and there's a couple of sequences that are just so fantastic, especially, I mean, the long hallway shot with the door in the door frame and stuff, and even like that scene on the beach later on in the film of like this
Mm-hmm.
kid trying to get through the door, and it's crazy fun as well as being
Mm-hmm.
creepy. So if you haven't seen It Follows, it seems like at this point a lot of people have. It's on a lot of like
Mm-hmm.
best horror movies of all time lists. So definitely watch this one if you haven't seen it. I think you can watch it on it looks like Showtime. So you can check it out on
Showtime.
Showtime if you have that, or just rent it or buy it. Do you have it on
I was
Blu-ray?
gonna, yeah, physical media. Yeah, buy it on physical media. Support it any way you can, because yeah, the first time you watch this, you're gonna be like, oh my god, you're never gonna want to be intimate with someone. You're always gonna be looking over your shoulder. This movie teaches you to like, don't just look at the person, look at the entire shot, and it makes it that much more terrifying for sure. For
Yeah.
sure.
All right, so that's my number 5. It Follows. Nate's number 5 was Scream. What's your number? Sorry, wait, that was our number 5. What's your number 4?
Yeah. My number 4. This one I'm gonna go back a few years, even a few years more than Scream.
Okay.
I'm even gonna fly past the 70s. I'm gonna fly past that. I just rewatched this movie, and I think for some people, if they watch it and experience it at the right time, could be creepy. It's called Night of the Hunter.
Okay. Yep.
So it's kind of corny and campy, but Robert Mitchum as Harry Powell, who's just this very corrupt preacher, and the way he hunts these kids in this movie, I know, like, you're looking at it right there, you're just like, that you can't watch that at Spooktober. There's nothing that doesn't. But trust me, when you put yourself in the position of these kids who have this secret and this guy is trying to get to them, I know it was 1955, but and I just rewatched it, and there's still a shot that gets to me every single time, and it's a kid in a barn.
Oh,
That's all I'm gonna say.
Unbelievable shot.
You watch it, you get to that.
Cinematography is incredible in that movie, just all around.
All on these built sets. Charles Lawton, this was his only film that he ever directed, and just the behind the scenes stuff that he does, just to get these characters to act the way they do and the way it's pieced together. It's just a really creepy concept. And I think if you were to watch this late at night on like a 4K where the blacks are really black and you have like a good sound system, immerse yourself in it, you could have some fun with this one. I could rewatch this anytime.
What's that tune that he hums like throughout when he's like chasing the children? And
leaning on the everlasting.
Him riding on like the horse, like in like the distance and stuff, and oh, it's so great.
But then there's also like he's evil, but then there's also a good character that you meet towards the end. She's kind of
she takes him in,
like,
the kids.
Yeah, she takes him in, and she also sings that tune, but she sings it from a more godly view of it. And she adds Jesus, I think, which is the actual the actual hymn or the song that it is. But yeah, no, definitely check this one out. Even if you don't like older movies, black and white movies, this one will suck you in. It's just it's basic, but it's terrifying.
And this is another movie where we have a full hour-long podcast on. So go down to the archives of Those Movie Dudes podcast. You can listen to us talk about it if you want. If you do check it out and want to hear our like in-depth thoughts, that's just a thing that you can do. Chances are we have episodes on a lot of fucking movies.
Yeah.
So I mean, just search our archives and guarantee like you'll get our thoughts on most of them. So Night of the Hunter, that I've seen it twice, and both times it was excellent. I love that movie.
I might rewatch it tonight just for the heck of it. It's just one that I just like the characters and I like the way it's told. It's just like a fairy tale.
So that was your number 4. Okay. My number 4, it's a movie that I know you have seen, and I recommended this movie to one of my coworkers, and he actually went and watched it and loved it. And so you two are the only people that I know that have seen this movie. But it is Satan's Slaves. This is an Indonesian horror film. It came out in, 2017.
I need to, I need to rewatch this because
It's about a family being terrorized by a demon, basically. I mean, very generic premise, but there's a lot going on with the family. There's some incredible tension that gets built throughout this movie, and the atmosphere of it. I mean, it's this poster is a little silly, but it's a very dark, dreary atmosphere that feels very much like the Conjuring movies. That type of like looming dread that's always there. Like you don't the characters are never safe, even the children. And so like that's what makes this movie stand apart from like the mainstream stuff, because usually they play it pretty safe. Besides the last Evil Dead movie, they just the kids were
they went for it.
expendable. They're like, we're gonna brutally murder these kids, and that was kind of interesting that they decided to go that route for a mainstream movie. But Satan Slaves, this movie blew me away, to be honest. I know you saw probably I gave it a 3.5 out of 5. That's still a really good grade. That's like a B plus in my mind. I still really enjoyed it. I think maybe my only complaint was that it's just maybe a little too long. But overall, I mean, if you haven't seen this movie, chances are you haven't. It's on Shudder. Definitely worth watching. This director, Joko Anwar, he knows what he's doing behind the camera, and he actually has a sequel called Satan Slaves like Communion. And I checked that one out a couple of months ago, and it's not as good as the first one, but it's still a really, really solid horror film. I think there were some scenes that got under my skin and just made me very unsettled. But that's another movie that kind of got plagued by it was a little too long.
Like 2 hours.
I think it was 2 hours. Yeah. And there were some characters were like, why are we following this character right now? Let's get back to the main ones. But regardless, the first one, Satan Slaves. If you have Shudder, if not, get Shudder just to watch this. It's that spooky. I mean, if you want to be scared, watch Satan Slaves late at night by yourself. Guarantee you'll be freaked the fuck out. So, Satan Slaves.
I remember while watching it, there was a scene, and all it was I think like 2 daughters going upstairs to see their mom. That's all I'm gonna say. And I just remember being like, what is going on? Why is the music getting loud? Oh, now there's no music. Oh fuck, what's gonna happen? It's just it sucks you in, and it was very claustrophobic because it's like all in the house and just kind of
oh god, though in the third
stuff
act
they went through. And then once it like reveals creepy. What could be going on, you're just like, okay.
When it's revealed what is actually happening, the twist of the fucking oh my god, and he comes back in the second one. Okay, anyways, moving on. That was my number 4, Satan Slaves on Shudder. Definitely watch this movie if you want to be scared. What's your number 3?
My number 3 did a lot of thinking. This one has such a cult following. There was even video stores way back in the day that would their copies of this movie would get stolen, and so people would go in to rent it, and they'd go, "No, the copy was stolen."
Was it because it was rare?
No, because it was so infamously scary and gory that
I'm trying to guess what this is.
I don't know if it was officially titled A Video Nasty in England, but this director went on to make
I know exactly what
I know once I said director that would probably set in.
I'm just gonna type it. Gonna type it. Actually, no, sorry, go ahead.
Oh no, I was gonna say you type it and I'll base it based off of the sound that you type.
When you said it's the original, now I got scared. Now I think I got it wrong. So
oh no, you're good. I think you have it.
We'll see, maybe.
Oh
no, it's not.
No,
okay.
it's
not.
not.
If you're an audio listener, you can't see my mistake. All right.
But it was a good guess, and honestly, it did go through my mind. But that's a very niche, very like specific type of horror comedy type thing, but kind of close. You had one of the words right. It is The Evil Dead by Sam Raimi.
God damn it.
That movie, I will just say, when I was in college, part partook in a little bit of extracurricular activity, wink, wink, and I watched this movie. I had to pause it a few times because for some reason I was just so unsettled that my heart was just racing. And that could have been the extracurriculars or it could have been the movie. I wholeheartedly put it towards the movie because this is just one of those movies that is just low budget gore fest, but genuinely creepy if you were to watch this back in 1981 when it came out. And I think this movie was shot in like 79, so it took a couple years for it to actually like get some sort of release. And the funny thing behind it is I believe Sam Raimi and his brother like pulled Tom Savini, who's a famous gore monster creator, pulled him into their office and said, "Hey, Tom Savini, we're making this movie. Will you come watch our dailies?" He goes, "Yeah, sure, I guess." And he goes in and he sees a decomposing body, and it was the Evil Dead. And that's kind of how they
Awesome.
yeah, that's how they got started. And as we know, Sam Raimi would continue on to make sequels to this: Evil Dead 2, Army of Darkness, and the original Spider-Man.
Yep.
Yeah. Well, yeah. I haven't seen those ones, but
I know.
I have
That's what I'm
these.
thining. Like, you haven't seen them yet. Like,
Yeah, no,
they're
I
fun.
know.
They're awesome, but you haven't. You got to see them. God damn it. Oh,
But
man.
this is just, it's one of those ones that you just watch it late at night and you just maybe watch it with your friends. It's kind of goofy, silly fun. And the practical effects, though they are very cheesy and obvious, it's commendable for what they were able to do and what they went through making it.
I remember when I first watched this movie, I didn't really get it. I mean, when I just load up the Letterbox when you were talking about it, I had it at a 3, and I was like, wait a second. Like, I've rewatched it since, and it's not a 3 because I bought the 4K when we did once again, go back to our Spooktober in like 2020 or 2021. You will hear our Evil Dead in like not the trilogy. We did all 4 of them. We did the remake too.
Yeah, we did do the remake.
We did
yeah.
1, 2, Army of Darkness, and then the remake in one
We've
episode.
got to update it and do Evil Dead Rise now.
Evil Dead Rise, that's right.
Just tag it to the end of it.
Yeah. No, but I don't know. I just love the behind the scenes stuff of this movie. Like, I am fascinated by it because it was just a group of friends that wanted to make a horror movie. They had no budget. They maxed out credit cards. They borrowed money from their parents, and like they just went into the woods. They found a cabin and they did everything as practical as they can, or they could, obviously. And so it was just what ended up happening with the result is iconic. And there's a reason why this movie has like the cult following that it does. I think I enjoy watching Evil Dead 2 the most, and like between these two. But this one is still like, if you haven't seen the Evil Dead movies, you have to go and watch this movie. I mean, this is horror movie making, like homemade horror movie making at its finest, for sure.
And that's why I think people should watch it, just because the horror movie you're watching isn't nearly as scary as the horror movie that was going on behind the camera with Bruce Campbell having to be like the money guy, and also talked about the horror of putting solid contacts in people's eyes, and they talk about having to clean it with alcohol. It's just, it was a different time. The safety standards were not looking at this movie and micromanaging like they would now. So definitely check it out for that. It's one of my favorites. Love it to death.
What Evil Dead movie have you seen the most?
Probably this one. But I will say Army of Darkness is very fun, and I can watch that at any time because it's less of a horror movie and just kind of, what if Sam Raimi just made Evil Dead but medieval? It was going to be called Medieval Dead.
It should have been called Medieval Dead. Army of Darkness, like, it's a cool name, but it's not. Anyways, I can go on.
And when the title pops up watching the movie, it says the Evil Dead versus. Wait, no, it's not. It's Bruce Campbell versus the Army of Darkness. And so it like, if I wish the title
Ash.
Yeah.
Is it not Ash versus the?
Oh, maybe. It might say
That's a
like
TV
Bruce
show.
Campbell as Ash. No, that's
Okay.
Ash versus the Evil Dead.
Right. Okay. there's so many Evil Dead content. My
Yeah.
God.
But
Yeah.
nonetheless, check this one out. It's a blast. You see a young Bruce Campbell, and just he gets the shit kicked out of him. That's all I'll say.
Great pick. My next one, my number 3. This is a movie that, once again, not a lot of people I know have seen this movie. Nate, I think you have seen this movie. And I did. Once again, I lent this movie to my coworker, and he watched it and loved it. So he's the second opinion here, third opinion. It is The Devil's Backbone. This is Guillermo del Toro's second movie, I think. The Devil's Backbone. This is a ghost movie set in an orphanage. It is just very like the atmosphere. It's very atmospheric. Like the whole time, the performances are really good. The directing is fantastic, and it's a ghost story. And it's a ghost story done in a really unique and cool way. And I remember really wanting to check out like his trilogy that's on the Criterion with The Devil's Backbone, Kronos, and Pan's Labyrinth. Now that I've seen all 3 of them, this might be my favorite out of all of them. I'm not quite sure, but they're all 4.5 out of 5s to me. Pan's Labyrinth. Oh, I don't know. Pan's Labyrinth is so good, but it's so different.
I loved Kronos, to be honest. Like when I watched it, I was like, "This is really good."
It's so good. All of his movies, Guillermo del Toro is just one of the best fucking directors. Like I'm just gonna say, he's
got
so
his
creative.
Oscar. He's
got his Oscar, and he's got his recent Oscar for animated feature. What did I give Kronos? I'm trying to check here. I gave it a 4.5 out of 5 as well. And what did I give Pan's Labyrinth? I'm just checking, making sure. 4.5. Yeah, so they're all 4.5 out of 5 for me. I've only seen them all once. If I rewatch them, maybe they go up to 5. I'm not quite sure. But The Devil's Backbone is definitely a movie that I am going to be putting in the Blu-ray player this October to rewatch it because it's been on my mind. Ghost stories, I think, are the most creepy to me. Like other than like aliens or creatures or other type of stuff. So
obvious ones.
yeah. So I highly recommend this movie. It is on Amazon Prime in 4K. So if you have a 4K TV player and Amazon account, you can watch this in 4K. And I have it on Criterion. It looks incredible on Blu-ray. So this is a great little horror film, or it's not really a horror film. It's more just like a suspenseful thriller in a way.
Yeah, it's got a bunch of different parts to it. Like it takes place during, I think, like the Spanish Civil War. So there's that tension going on around this ghost story. And you just, when you learn the fates of certain people and who's involved, it ties the whole story together. And it's just that bomb on that cover. It's just, it's that like looming red herring that's just there. That's just, you never know what's going on, and there's a story behind it. But Guillermo del Toro, he's definitely one of the best filmmakers to ever do it.
Oh my
and
god!
Just his from where he came from and what he's went through. This is definitely one worth watching.
All of his movies just have such a great sense of like atmosphere. All of them, and
they're all magical and it's like a fairy tale.
And he plays with different tones, like and he meshes them together, and it works. And I don't know, for some reason he's just a master at what he does, and there's a reason why he is, an Oscar winner for best director. I'm so glad he got that. So yeah, Devil's Backbone. Like I said, it's on Amazon Prime. Go and watch this movie. Add it to your watch list. It is a creepy little ghost film. So that is my number 3. What's your number 2?
My number 2. I've given you 3 pretty serious movies. This one isn't as serious. As a matter of fact, this is probably the most fun one on the list.
Cabin in the Woods.
I almost put that to be like the exact opposite of Evil Dead. Like watch them back to back and you get 2 completely
That'd be a
different
fun double feature. Yeah,
because it's basically the same cabin, and then you just But no, this one is actually one of the better anthologies that I've ever seen. Just the way all the stories tie in. it's just a lot of fun, and it's definitely got probably the most of the spooky season spirit going throughout. No.
Okay. You said anthology and spooky,
Yeah.
and VHS 2 is that for me. But okay, all right.
It's actually Trick or Treat.
Oh, of course. Yeah.
Yeah,
Trick or
you
treat.
know, is it Michael Dougherty? Is he the one who
Unfortunately,
directed it?
yeah.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, he's
Um
a piece of shit. I'm sorry. What did I say that out loud? I'm sorry. Whoa. Okay.
Oh,
Carry on.
okay. What? Huh? But yeah, it's just one of those ones. I remember seeing the trailer for this on some VHS tapes back in the day and just being like, what is this movie? And it's just one that it encapsulates the Halloween season really, really well and just has a bunch of cool shorts that tie in really well. And it's just one of those movies that you can have so much fun with just because it doesn't take itself too seriously while also paying homage to like the great horror movies from the past. So I felt like it would have been bad if that didn't come up at all.
Well, yeah. I
Just
mean, like
because
it is the definitive like October watch on Halloween type of movie,
mhm. And I think
without question.
even if you don't like horror movies, just throw this on Halloween night and just have it in the background. It's fun. You'll catch yourself just kind of seeing what's up with these characters and all the little twists and turns that are going on. And some good music too. There's Marilyn Manson cover of Sweet Dreams in this movie, and it's a pretty badass song. So
Yeah.
yeah.
It's only a movie to watch during the Halloween season, so it's a perfect pick. And if you haven't seen it, I think John still hasn't seen it. I forget if we
That
ended up doing an
mother
episode on it. I don't think we
trucker.
did. But Trick or Treat, no, I've seen this movie maybe 4 times now, throughout, I mean, the Halloween seasons, and it's just a great go-to watch. It's a quick watch too. I think it's literally an hour and 22 minutes. You could knock this one out so fast, and the stories are pretty entertaining. I really remember the one with Dylan Baker, with the kid, and
Um,
it's such a weird and unsettling little short, but it was effective. And the shot of the bus going off the cliff and like the way the camera like lingers and then decides to go and like look over the edge. It's
yeah.
just some of the stuff was pretty cool on how that movie was made. But I don't know. I this character is so iconic. Like I kind of want to see him, maybe like a movie on him or something, but not have Michael Daughtry direct it. Have somebody else come in.
Yeah,
But
just maybe
this
call it
kid,
Spirit of Halloween or something and
right?
get it sponsored by the business and just have him
Because
created. He's basically the
he's my favorite
embodiment
part of the
of,
movie.
yeah. And he's not okay, he is a pivotal part, but he's not he's on the cover, like on the
He's at the
poster
end,
here.
right?
Say what?
Then he comes in at the end, right? Like he's kind of like
He
he's kind of like
appears,
cameos throughout.
yes.
Yeah,
And then
right.
he plays a part in like the final story that then ties the other stories together.
Right.
But he's creepy. I remember the trailer had him crawling on the ceiling, and I remember being like freaked out by it. And I think that's Brian Cox in that short.
Yeah,
so yeah, I just remember seeing that and being like, I need to watch it. And now I feel like I've watched it at least once a year. Just because maybe not around Halloween. I might watch it around Arbor Day or something like that.
Sure. Yeah, of course.
Just
that makes
because.
sense.
Just because. But yeah.
Okay. Trick or Treat. That movie is not on any streaming sites. What?
Which is unbelievable.
You can rent it for $2.99 on YouTube or
Just buy
Amazon
it.
or wherever you gotta be. I think I have the Blu-ray.
You'll get it. You'll watch it enough and get your money's worth. I was gonna say your money back, but I don't know.
Unfortunately, not. You don't get your money back. But no, yeah, it's an iconic movie to put on Halloween, like on the day Halloween. So yeah, it's a great pick. I went with another obscure movie that I just feel like no one's seen. You've seen it.
Ooh.
I think John's even seen it. This movie
Bridge to Terabithia.
not Bridge to Terabithia. No. This movie is not even on physical media. You can't buy this movie on DVD, on Blu-ray, on 4K, or anything else. At one point, the only way you could watch this movie is if you had an HBO subscription. Because basically, this is a 20th Century Fox film. It was kind of buried when Disney bought it. And Disney was like, oh, we have this on the shelf. We have no idea what to do with this. Let's just put it in theaters for a week and then just put it on demand. And it's just stayed there on demand. And it does not have a proper release. But it is The Empty Man. Yeah, The Empty Man. Chances are you have not heard of this movie if you're listening. If you have heard of this movie, please let us know what you think of this movie, because I thoroughly enjoyed this movie a lot. It's directed by David Pryor, who hasn't really done anything else. Like, he's done just a lot of documentaries, and actually he was in charge of doing all of the special features, like on the DVDs for David Fincher films. So he was on set basically creating like the extra special feature stuff that you'd get on disc for David Fincher movies. So he worked under David Fincher, which makes a lot of sense if you've seen The Empty Man, because there is so much. This is basically a Fincher directed a horror movie right here. Like the coloring, the cinematography, like
the opening sequence.
The opening sequence is like a 20-minute short film that like it ties into the rest of the movie, but it stands apart because it has its own characters, its own location, and it just kind of ties into the overall like main MacGuffin of the movie. But regardless, the only thing about this movie, like, it's a 4 out of 5, which is like an A- to me. The only reason it's not like higher is because look at the length. It's an hour and 37 minutes. It's a long movie.
No,
it's
137 minutes.
137
you said
minutes. An hour and 37.
I'm like, what's wrong with that?
It's 137 minutes. That's what, 2 hours and 15? Like, yeah.
217.
About 217. Jesus Christ, this movie is very long. And you feel it a little bit towards the middle, but there are some sequences that I still have not forgotten about of this movie, involving him going out into a field at the middle of the night, and oh my god,
and a teddy bear.
Yep. Oh yeah, and the little warehouse that he discovers. Basically, if there's a time in October where it is just very rainy, very dreary, it's like, I don't know, maybe like 5:30 at night, 6 o'clock, where it's just getting dark. Put this movie on, rent this movie, because you can't buy it on Blu-ray, unfortunately. I would instantly buy it if it gets a release.
Yes, I look for it every time, just in case.
Yeah,
just in case.
It's just a really, really interesting and entertaining little horror film that just no one's seen, and it's really worth it. I think it was Chris Stuckman that made a video on it that was like, oh, okay, like I've heard of this, and I kind of wrote it off as like it was just a generic shitty, like The Bye-Bye Man or something, or just like those like direct to theaters for like just the cash grab and stuff. But this movie has a lot of craft behind it, and there was a lot of thought put into it. So I highly recommend watching The Empty Man this Spooktober, because I just want to spread the word that this movie is indeed fantastic. So The Empty Man.
Yeah, this movie, it had so many sequences that could just be short films, like the opening, that whole trip to that camp in the field. That whole sequence in itself was just chilling, because then you kind of see what's going on, and
the kids on the bridge blowing into the bottle. Remember that whole sequence?
Yep. And I'm like replaying it in my head and kind of remembering what the whole thing is in like a nutshell. It's just
too long. That's it.
And no, I agree with you. But I can't really think of stuff. Maybe some of the conversations could have been cut short a little bit.
I'd have to watch it again to really like figure it out. But
nonetheless, I would definitely watch it again.
Yeah. So the second it comes to Blu-ray or 4K, I am going to pre-order it, whatever it takes to get this movie on physical media. This movie is awesome. So Empty Man, that's my number 2. right?
Yep.
2.
That was your number 2.
Are you on your number 1 in no particular order?
I'm on my number 1 in no particular order.
That's exciting. All right. What's your last movie that you are going to recommend for people to check out?
For those of you who know me, which say what?
We didn't overlap at all, by the way. I thought we were.
I know, which I was kind of expecting.
But that's okay. You get 10
or no,
movies.
yeah. It was just, and I'm kind of disappointed in myself because you like dove deep and got some good. I feel like I went pretty stereotypical, and I have to do that with my number 1 pick because you can't sit on your couch at Halloween.
I know you picked.
And not consider putting in 1978's Halloween, or I'm sorry, John Carpenter's Halloween, because this movie, it's up there with Psycho as changing the game. And the more I watch it, the more I'm just in love with it because of how it's directed and the way John Carpenter, who was just a starting director at that point, I think he directed one thing. He came into this and just, you could see the flower blossoming because he had Jamie Lee Curtis, young Jamie Lee Curtis, and she just became Laurie Strode. And it's just something about this movie. It just, with Trick or Treat and almost more than Trick or Treat, it has the essence of Halloween, but just the evil side of that, just the whole Michael Myers character and the way they reveal him with one of the greatest shots in cinema history with that one take at the beginning. But it's just one of those movies that if you're a horror fan, well, maybe not for everybody because it's subjective, but this would be on a Mount Rushmore of a lot of people's horror movies just because of how iconic it was. It didn't start the slasher genre because I know people say like Black Christmas and there were some other movies. But this one just wrote the book. Like, this is the blueprint for all slashers coming through. Even one of my favorites, Friday the 13th, which led into Nightmare on Elm Street and then went into Scream, and just it affected so many directors and so many movies were made around it. It's on the TV in Scream. Like, that's how iconic it is. And just the character of Michael Myers, just people might not know Halloween, but if you say Michael Myers, they'll probably know what you're talking about. And that's thanks to William Shatner.
Yeah, of course. And it's another example of just low budget practical filmmaking that just worked. It was just so iconic. Like, they didn't need
and the music.
Oh my god, the music is so fantastic.
It took them 3 days.
And that's the thing. I love that even when Blumhouse got the rights and they remade it into the new trilogy that it is, John Carpenter still came back and just composed the original score, and the scores went so hard in all 3 of those movies.
Mm-hmm.
It's like, I love that he also is just a composer and just a creative guy in general, because it's just like the most iconic theme song maybe of all time. Well, no, I mean, not Halloween, but you could probably go Jaws or like Star Wars or Indiana Jones or whatever. But I mean, if you hear the first couple of keys or notes of this song, I mean, you're instantly going to get it. Even if you haven't seen the movie, I bet you'll be able to get it.
Yeah, if someone says iconic movie scores, I would probably go to, it's just, it's creepy. It's terrifying.
Yeah.
He did it in 3 days. Like, I feel so inadequate. Yeah.
Oh, I didn't realize he did the score in 3 days. That's
well, because his dad was like a music professor. And so he kind of grew up around instruments. That's why he was able to do this. And he even did, I think, a couple of the scores of the original ones with his son, Cody Carpenter. And they kind of collabed, and they weren't ripoffs either. They were like, they took the original and spiced it up. Like, when the shape stalking Allison in the first one, love it. It's got that creepiness to it. And yeah, it just makes the movies that much more suspenseful. And they even said when this movie, he was showing it to like reviewers to get it passed, and people, it was before the score was connected, and they're like, that's not scary. No one's going to be scared of this. And then he made that score, put it on, and the same woman said that's the most terrifying movie I've ever seen. Like, yeah,
you don't know my vision.
You don't. And he directed, like, I forget what it's called. I don't think it was called Dark Star. It was some sci-fi movie in the early 70s. Oh wait, I forgot. He did
Assault on
Precinct 13.
Precinct 13.
Yes, that's what I was thinking. Okay, so a couple movies before that, but still.
Yeah, it set him up to make an iconic horror film that everyone's still watching today.
Had the balls to put his name on the title too. Like, that wasn't heard of back then. If it was like Hitchcock, maybe, but yeah, he just got his name on the title, and now he's famous for it.
So for my last movie to recommend here, I had 2 movies to choose from. I narrowed it down to 2, both equally iconic. One maybe just a little bit more, and I went with the one that I thought was a little less, because I still think everyone's seen the fucking number one. But I went with this movie, and I think you'll be happy, because it is Rosemary's Baby.
Oh, thank you. Oh, yes. Was your other one? Can I guess it?
Sure.
Was it The Exorcist?
Of course, it was The Exorcist.
Okay,
yes. Yeah, absolutely. Okay. Because
I figured.
This is the thing. When you get close to Halloween, like, you want a really scary movie. I love The Exorcist because it's such a fantastic movie. I don't necessarily get freaked out or scared by it for some reason. Like, maybe it's just because I'm a narcissist. But regardless, this movie, Rosemary's Baby, I had never seen this movie until like a couple of years ago. I think you picked it for a Collector's Corner episode that's long lost. You have to subscribe to our Patreon in order to get that. We don't even have a Patreon. But Rosemary's Baby.
That just clicked. I'm like, oh, wait a minute. Yeah, we don't have a Patreon.
We don't even have a Patreon, but I know we have that episode recorded somewhere. So if you give us $5, I'll find a way to send you our content.
We'll send it to you. We'll even send it on a hard drive.
yeah, with a Blu-ray too. This movie just blew me away because I had never seen it until you recommended it, and watching it for the first time in like 2020 or 2021, it was just unbelievable. I was surprised by how much I was just engrossed with this movie, and mainly because Mia Farrow's performance is so convincing. It's so unsettling. Like, and you start to even think, it's like, who do I trust around me? Like, this is just terrifying. Like, just put it in this situation of this woman just, if you haven't seen it, I don't want to get too far into it, but yeah, it's like a pregnant woman who's moved into a new apartment building, and just the neighbors are a little weird. People are a little weird in the building. Her husband's a little weird. Everything's a little weird. And just things just escalate and go to a place where, obviously, I mean, I could probably guess where it was going to go, but like, I just wasn't thinking at the time. And when it was revealed, I was just like blown away. So this movie is fantastic. And if you haven't seen it, it's on Showtime. Not a lot of people have a Showtime subscription, I don't think, but it's all out of print Criterion. Unfortunately, I missed out on buying this. I think you have a Blu-ray copy of the Criterion of this.
One of my early, well, I don't want to say it was one of my earlier purchases in Criterion collecting, but it was pretty early on. And
one of the first ones for sure, yeah.
This is one of my favorite movies of all time. Genuinely.
All time.
Genuinely. I didn't
realize that, actually.
I would say top 10. If I really thought about it, I would put it in my top 10 because I am so unnerved by this movie. The music, the characters are creepy. Like the Roman Castevet neighbor, he's just you like you said it perfect. You can't trust anyone. And just the way Roman Polanski, I know he's not a good person. I get that. But
garbage. But yeah.
This was him at a prime time in filmmaking for him. And I almost don't well, I'm almost speechless because I have had such a good history of progression with this movie where like I watched it the first time. I was like, oh, it's good, but I didn't get all the messages.
Oh,
And
okay.
then the
So you didn't
more,
initially love this. I didn't realize that. Okay.
well, no, I liked it, but I didn't, it
But like
wasn't
not
up
top
on the
all
pedestal.
time.
No,
Yeah.
God, no. But then I rewatched it, and when I started piecing the stuff that I didn't understand together, I kind of did the same thing with The Exorcist and The Shining and those movies because they take
Sure.
multiple watches to kind of grasp everything. And once I've rewatched those, I've loved them. All three of those movies are amazing, but this one in particular, just terrifying. Just I can't the chills that I get right now just knowing that I'm in the presence of someone who cares about me and then being betrayed, and just that trust is broken and there's nothing you can do about it, and the only
The
person you
most
can trust is yourself.
extreme extent too in
And
this movie.
it's performed beautifully by the whole cast. I know Ruth Gordon, who plays Minnie, who's honestly probably the most sinister out of all of them. She wins an Oscar for this. So that's, if that doesn't say anything about the performances, just the whole movie in general. And the music is creepy. Mia Farrow rocks it because she, and nothing against her, she's a beautiful woman, but just the way that her body morphs through this character, she just looks almost otherworldly. And when there's a big part towards the end that's pretty famous, and her reaction to it and the music, the way it swells, is just, it's like heart stopping because you realize it, she realizes it, you figure out what's going on together, and it's just masterfully done.
And if you have any, I mean, we're praising it pretty hard, but if you're still kind of a little like hesitant to check this one out, our other dude, John, he gave this movie a 5 out of 5. So that's pretty big for a movie from 1968, a horror movie from 1968. For John to give this a 5 out of 5, like that's something to consider.
And it's just like, that's almost has more value than Fort Knox gold storage. Like,
he says that
the
Mia
fact,
Farrow is fucking phenomenal and acts circles around everybody else.
yeah, and she does. And John Cassavetes, who plays her husband, is no slouch. And the crew around them are just top-notch actors who just hone it in, and you believe it the entire time, and you almost go insane with her because you just,
you feel it.
You fall into the trap.
Yeah. So Rosemary's Baby, guys, if you haven't seen it, watch this movie this Spooktober, please, because all these movies are just phenomenal. So that was literally 10 different movies that you guys can go and add to your watch lists. Let us know what movies you've seen out of those, what movies you disagree with, what movies you think should be in there instead. Fire away in the comments down below. We'd love to have that discussion down in the comment section. But Nate, do you want to create the ultimate top 5 with all 10 of our movies? So we have to eliminate.
To be honest, I forgot that we were going to do this. So
I was considering not even doing this because
there's no cover. There's no covers.
Solid movies here.
Now we have to argue, and
yeah.
Damn.
I mean, we can skip it. I mean, these are just 10 solid movies.
No. Okay, well, it's 10 solid movies, but
not everyone's going to get the 10 movies in 1 month.
No.
I mean,
let's give them
I can
the
do
ultimate
that in 4 days, but
so anyways. Like, are there any on your list? Like, because I'm looking at mine. Is there any that stand out that you would instantly go, nope, that's not in the running?
On your list?
No, on your list.
My list.
Because I feel like if we do some self thinking about it, then we'll be more open to what the other people are gonna like want in the list.
Yeah. I could consider removing It Follows because I feel like a lot of people have seen the movie at this point. It's been out for, 9 years. So
Yeah.
wait, was it 2014? Really? No, it was 2016.
Uh,
No, it was 2016 when it came out. So I thought it was 14. Anyways,
or was it 2015? Because we were in
yeah, we were in college when we saw it.
yeah. But you don't have to
I
get rid of it because I loved it.
But out of the 5 that I picked,
Do you
that
see
It
that being on
Follows,
like the ultimate?
or do I see it being on the ultimate list? No, I am
Like
only
is
considering removing it because it's kind of a more personal because like I want to go and revisit it this
Mhm.
October, and it's also because I feel like a lot of people have seen it already.
Okay.
Um, so that's why I'd consider removing it from my list, despite the fact that it's a very atmospheric movie to put on during Spooktober.
Can I
I
just vouch for?
Go ahead.
Can I vouch for Halloween? Like, can I say
Because
that
of
I
how
maybe
iconic
not
it is.
number one, but
Yeah.
like if they've never seen and they
Yeah.
want like a good Spooktober experience, I would say that's a good one.
I would be fine for you. I'd be fine leaving Trick or Treat and Halloween on that list, on the ultimate list right
Really?
now, as of now, because Trick or Treat, once again, I don't think maybe a lot of people have seen it, and it's just like, how about this? No, you got to pick Trick or Treat or Halloween.
Oh, Halloween. Sorry.
Okay,
Trick or
Halloween staying
Trick.
on.
The reason I brought up the whole thing was, is there a movie that you want to flick? For me, it was Trick or Treat. Like,
Okay,
yeah, I love these, but that's B tier. Let's get to the A tier classics here. Like, let's do that. But yeah,
okay.
but
So
where do you think it should go? Or is it just a not numbered list? Just
not
maybe
numbered,
5. Okay,
not numbered. So
that
yeah,
works.
Halloween that can stay. Out of my list, which movie do you think should stay?
So you had It Follows,
Yep,
The Empty Man,
Devil's Backbone,
Devil's Backbone,
and
Rosemary's
Rosemary's
Baby, and
Baby.
Satan Slaves.
Let me just make an argument here. I think Rosemary's Baby has to stay based on how much we
Yes,
fucking praise this movie. So
I agree.
Halloween and Rosemary's Baby. Okay.
Yes.
So the other movie on my list, what could you see being on there? The obscure ones that you think maybe a lot of people haven't seen that they should check out over the rest. Satan's Slaves, Devil's Backbone, and The Empty Man.
I would say
Because I love all
that
these.
we've got a slasher, we've got kind of a thriller. Let's go with a ghost story. I think The Devil's Backbone would be a fun one if you, because it's, you watch that late at night type of thing, and inside like a boys' school, and it's all creepy and dark at night, and you don't know what's going on around you. I would say The Devil's Backbone, unless there's one that you think would
I'm fine
be a
keeping
better
it on.
fit.
No, it's a great little ghost story. It's a foreign film, a little different.
But it's also kind of like a, I think I said it a couple times, it's very fantastical. So like it is a serious movie, but there's like this otherworldly element to it that just, it also has like heart for a
Right.
horror movie. So yeah.
Okay. So The Devil's Backbone is going to stay on the list. We should probably pick one out of your list now. So that's 3 movies that we got narrowed down.
So I'm stuck between 2. One of them, I don't know how familiar people would be with it. So I wasn't going to put Night of the Hunter on there just because it does have its quirkier moments.
I'd be fun keeping that off. Yeah.
Yeah. So it's really between Scream and The Evil Dead. And part of me is leaning towards Scream just because of the iconic nature of it and the horror pedigree that was put behind it. And Neve Campbell is one of the greatest final girls in the genre.
and this stream would be featured in a Scream movie of people making fun of people talking about horror movies on the internet, because that's exactly what we're doing. So,
and you know what? It's fine because
exactly.
This is a dream.
We would be the butt of the joke in those Scream movies. Yeah, I'm fine. Yeah, I'm fine keeping Scream on the list. It's actually a movie that I would love to revisit this Spooktober, because I've only seen it once back in like 2013. It's been a long time since I've seen the very first movie. So yeah, I'd love to check it out. And it's also on 4K. It got a 4K release within the last couple of years, and I think it's down to like $10-14. So I will maybe seek that out and check it out. And plus, I really enjoyed the latest Scream movie that came out, Scream 6. So it's still going today.
It in a different direction. That's kind of fun.
Yeah. Chances are you've seen it, but I mean, if you whatever this ultimate list is, if you've seen the movie, just replace it with one that we talked about that you hadn't seen already. All right, so there you go. All right, so now we have Satan's Slaves, The Empty Man, Trick or Treat, and Evil Dead.
I thought you wanted Trick or Treat on the all-time list.
No, I actually changed my mind and had you just choose between Halloween or Trick or Treat.
Oh yeah, I'm sorry.
No, you're good. I would argue for Evil Dead to stay off, only because I think a lot of people have seen it at this point.
Okay.
And I think we have a couple of those on the list already, Halloween and Scream.
And I feel like for a lot of people, the other, like, they might prefer, like, say, the Evil Dead 2 or something, where it's basically the first movie, but it's got a little more meat to it. There's more of a story. So, yeah. Yeah, I would keep it off. It's more niche. Like, it's more of, like, a specific... Unless people really want to see it, then yeah, go watch it.
In terms... So, what I'm thinking right now for the 5th slot is either Satan's Slaves or The Empty Man. Unless you have another option.
It's a really hard pick because both of these movies, the only real flaw behind it is the runtime.
It's the runtime. Yeah.
They both run maybe 15 minutes too long.
It's under, I think Satan's Slaves is maybe like 150. And then, yeah, Empty Man is like 215, 216.
They were both genuinely creepy.
Which one are you tempted to revisit the most right now?
Like if I turned around and I was like, I'm gonna watch.
Well, not to be fair, because Empty Man's long, but I mean, not maybe right now, but just like what movie between the two would you be most eager to rewatch?
I'm gonna say The Empty Man, just because. And I'm not saying Satan's Slaves is like a stereotypical horror movie, but I like that The Empty Man does some different things. Right. And with the whole opening sequence and some of the sequences that go on, I feel like people should experience that in like a really creepy setting. Whereas Satan's Slaves, you could watch it any dark night and you'd get creeped out by it. But I feel like The Empty Man, it feels more, I don't want to say more evil, but it's more realistic.
Well, yeah.
I feel like it's more grounded in reality, whereas Satan's...
I'm agreeing with you.
These movies are great. I just think The Empty Man's it does something a little different.
I'm going with The Empty Man as well, I think, for the 5th slot, because Devil's Backbone is the superior ghost story, I think, and that's already on the list. So I would go with The Empty Man, and plus I just don't feel like a lot of people have seen it. So that is our top 5 right there. Devil's Backbone, Rosemary's Baby, Halloween, Scream, and The Empty Man. Chances are you've seen, like I said, a couple of these movies already. If you haven't, just watch one of the other movies that we talked about, the other 5 movies.
That's sick.
Oh, the ticker?
I didn't know you could do that.
Yeah, there's a lot of fun things you can do.
Breaking the fourth wall here, people. I did not know that was a thing.
You know what I forgot to do? I forgot to put our little logo at the top, but whatever.
There it is.
Well, that is pretty much the episode that we were planning on doing tonight. We're just going to talk about some horror movies. We can just cap it off with maybe a couple of some horror movie trivia questions.
Oh,
here.
yeah.
I got two for you.
Yeah.
They're very easy, and feel free to play at home as well.
Movie trivia cards.
Oh, you got them too.
Yeah.
Okay, so my question for you.
Yeah.
I haven't even seen this movie.
Okay.
So we'll see what happens. Question.
Yes.
Who is the main villain from the movie Phantasm?
If it's the only thing that I can think of, it's kind of a generic name, but I think they call him the Tall Man.
The Tall Man.
Okay, gotcha. Because that's all I remember. He's just this creepy tall guy that works in a morgue.
Yep. Okay. Good job. All right. 1 point for you. And
okay.
Game, we're not taking points.
Maybe if we do this on a consistent basis, we can start keeping track. Maybe put a Blu-ray up for debate.
I think during the month of October, we'll maybe do some live streams where we're doing this horror movie games and stuff. And
I'm
if
down.
you're listening at home and want to join in for that, and we'll find a way for you guys to play along at home or something. Because that's something that sounds like a lot of fun. All right. So your question?
My question is, in Steven Spielberg's okay, see this is one of the mistakes I found, and I didn't catch it until now. It says in Steven Spielberg's 1982 movie Jaws, which is very wrong, off by 7 years. What is the name of Captain Hooper's boat? And I think that is also wrong because it's not Hooper's boat. I think it's Quinn's boat. But
it's not Orca, right? No. Is it Orca?
It's the Orca.
The Orca. Okay.
Yeah.
Nice.
Yeah.
Let's go.
Yeah, it's down there.
The Orca.
Yeah.
It's all right. Your light's just a little too bright. The Orca. All right.
Orca.
I think it's that, but saying it out loud, it sounds wrong. But
nope.
Okay.
Once you said it, I was like, yeah, that's how he probably felt when I said the tall man. Was just like, oh yeah, no, that's right.
Good question.
Cool.
My next question for you. Let's see what I want to do here. They're kind of easy. This one, I just feel like you know that one. I'm not going to give you the year.
Okay.
The year's in the question, but
gotcha.
That'll be a follow-up.
Okay.
Question. Which movie had the tagline, "Sleep all day, party all night, never grow old, never die. It's fun to be a vampire"?
Can you say it again? I'm sorry.
The tagline. Sleep all day, party all night, never grow old, never die. It's fun to be a vampire. If you need the year, I'll give it to you.
Well, there's two movies that come to mind.
Okay.
And I think I know the year. Is it 1990?
1987.
I was gonna say 86. Is it The Lost Boys?
Fortunately, you are correct. Yeah. It is The Lost Boys. Yep. It's the movie that's on my watch list for the Spooktober.
Yeah, that's one of the only vampire movies where you genuinely see the vampire characters enjoy what they do, and so that's what kind of gave it away.
Okay.
So this one is multiple choice, but if you know the answer before I give you the choices, I'll let you guess it, type of thing.
Okay.
That way. In the 1986 science fiction horror film Aliens, how many years was Ripley adrift in space?
I've seen this movie once, and it was maybe 10 years ago. Okay.
I wouldn't have gotten it either, but
multiple choice.
57 years, 67 years, or 81 years?
I like 67 the most.
You do?
Yeah.
Are you sure?
Yep.
Okay. Well, unfortunately, it was 57 years.
Damn it.
It does. Honestly, it does. I just
Nah, that's
stupid light.
I'm sorry. I haven't seen the movie in like 10 years. There's no way I
That's
was
all
gonna be
right.
able to
I
get
wouldn't have
that.
gotten it either, and I picked the question. So, the only other horror option I had was what was the name of the hotel in The Shining?
The Overlook. Yeah, this question right here.
Bingo.
Which movie features the line, "We're gonna need a bigger boat"?
Oh, that's the 1982 Steven Spielberg movie Jaws.
Jaws. Exactly. All right. I mean, that's really
questions.
that's really the episode that we have for you guys today. Just a little prelude to Spooktober. So go and watch these horror movies. Let us know what horror movies you have lined up for October. Do you guys get as excited for horror movies in October as we do? Because we kind of are obsessed with it. And yeah. So yeah, that's the episode. Thanks for listening. Thanks for watching. Subscribe. Follow us wherever you get your podcast. Follow us on socials at ThoseMovieDudes. And yeah, thanks for listening. And
yeah, it's the weekend. Yeah, the weekend.